For decades, Iran has operated one of the most unusual airline fleets in the world. Despite sweeping international sanctions designed to isolate the country from the global aerospace industry, Iranian airlines still fly dozens of Boeing and Airbus aircraft. Many of those jets were never supposed to reach Iran in the first place. Yet through a complex network of shell companies, deceptive flight plans, and covert logistics, Iran has managed to sustain and even expand parts of its commercial fleet. The result is a shadow aviation system where civilian airliners sometimes serve far more than passenger travel. So in this video, we take a look at how Iran defied sanctions to build a secret Boeing fleet, the hidden networks used to acquire aircraft and spare parts, the role of international partners like Russia, and how these planes eventually became part of a broader dual-use logistics network. For years, international sanctions have aimed to block Iran from the global aerospace market. Those restrictions were designed to cut the country off from aircraft manufacturers, spare parts suppliers, and aviation service providers. In theory, that should have made it extremely difficult for Iran to operate modern aircraft. Yet around 60 Boeing airliners are believed to still be in service today. Iran's total civilian jet fleet is estimated at about 330 aircraft, although fewer than 200 are currently considered airworthy. The planes that can still fly play a strategic role. They move cargo, support regional allies, and help project influence across the Middle East and beyond. Once an aircraft successfully reaches Iranian territory, it stops being a simple commercial asset. Instead, it becomes part of a dual-use logistics network that is often linked to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC. Because sanctions prevent Iranian airlines from buying aircraft parts directly, the government and its partners have created an alternative ecosystem designed to keep the aviation sector alive. This parallel network relies on shell companies, brokers, and foreign intermediaries operating in countries with weaker regulatory oversight. Through these channels, aircraft and components can be moved quietly across borders before eventually arriving in Iran. One of the most controversial tactics involves acquiring second-hand aircraft through deception. Iran has reportedly used networks of accomplices to forge documents and coordinate mid-flight diversions that conceal the true destination of aircraft. These planes initially depart under legitimate flight plans, often scheduled to travel between countries in the same region, but after takeoff, the situation changes. In some cases, pilots request unscheduled landings in Tehran. In others, they declare emergencies as the aircraft approaches Iranian airspace. Reports also suggest that ADS-B transponders have occasionally been turned off during flights over regions like Afghanistan or Iraq, temporarily removing the aircraft from digital tracking systems. One striking example occurred in 2025, when 5 Boeing 777-200ER aircraft were reportedly flown to Tehran under false pretenses. According to aviation reports, the planes had been fraudulently registered in Madagascar and filed flight plans for maintenance in Kenya. Instead of continuing to their intended destination, they diverted to Iran. Originally, the aircraft had been scheduled to move from storage in China to Cambodia, but the flight path changed dramatically along the way. Once these aircraft land in Tehran, their identities are quickly transformed. Foreign registrations are removed, airline liveries are repainted, and the aircraft receive new Iranian registration numbers. On paper, they may be leased or transferred between domestic airlines to create a confusing ownership trail. This process makes it difficult for international regulators to track the true origin of the aircraft. Keeping these planes flying requires an even more complicated system for obtaining spare parts. Airlines like Iran Air and Mahan Air rely on global networks of brokers to source components from the secondary aviation market. Many of these parts originate in the United States or Europe before passing through several intermediaries. In some cases, components are taken from retired aircraft that have been dismantled for parts. Iran has also attempted to reduce its dependence on foreign suppliers by developing domestic manufacturing capabilities. Engineers and aviation technicians have spent years working to reverse engineer critical components used in Western-built aircraft. In 2024, Iran's Civil Aviation Organization announced that the country had mastered technologies required to produce several key parts for Boeing and Airbus jets. By late 2025, Iranian officials claimed that domestic companies were producing their own replacement components for commercial aircraft. However, one major challenge remains: engines. Modern high-bypass turbofan engines require extremely advanced materials and precision manufacturing processes. Replicating those technologies domestically remains extremely difficult. Another major development in this shadow aviation ecosystem involves cooperation with Russia. In 2022, Iran and Russia signed an agreement to exchange aviation technical support, repair services, and spare parts production. This partnership emerged after sanctions were imposed on Russia following its invasion of Ukraine. With both countries facing restrictions from Western aerospace suppliers, cooperation offered a practical solution. In 2023, Russia's national airline Aeroflot sent an Airbus A330-300 to Iran for a heavy maintenance check. It was the first time a Russian flag carrier had used Iranian facilities for such extensive work. By 2025, the two countries had gone even further, agreeing to recognize each other's aviation standards under a unified regulatory system. That arrangement allows Russian airlines to use parts manufactured in Iran and return aircraft repaired there directly to service. Reports from monitoring groups suggest that Russian officials have expressed satisfaction with the quality of Iranian engineering work, even though shortages of spare parts have occasionally caused delays. Iranian companies have since received licenses to provide maintenance and overall services with the Russian aviation market. In recent years, some reports have suggested that Iranian civilian aircraft have also been used to transport Shahed series drones and other equipment to Russia. Monitoring groups claim that flights between Tehran and Moscow have carried both personnel and military technology. There are also reports that aircraft acquired through shell companies have transported technicians and equipment to Venezuela, returning with shipments of gold used to support Iran's economy. But Iran's aviation sector now faces new challenges. Military tensions in the region have led to direct strikes on facilities linked to the IRGC and the broader aviation infrastructure. Operation Epic Fury, a campaign targeting Iranian military airfields and logistics hubs, has caused severe disruption across the country's aviation sector. Although there have been no confirmed reports of commercial passenger aircraft being shot down, the strikes have damaged infrastructure shared by both military and civilian operations. Facilities such as the Hessa aircraft manufacturing complex, which plays a role in maintaining parts of Iran's commercial fleet, have reportedly been targeted. The consequences have been significant. Iran closed its national airspace following the initial strikes, and regional instability forced thousands of flights across the Middle East to be cancelled or diverted. More than 11,000 flights have reportedly been disrupted since the escalation began, leaving hundreds of thousands of travelers stranded. In the long term, the future of Iran's aviation sector remains uncertain. If political conditions change, the clandestine networks that once helped Iran acquire aircraft may disappear. But if sanctions remain and geopolitical tensions continue, the shadow aviation ecosystem that kept these aircraft flying could persist in new forms. What do you think? Do you believe Iran's secret aviation networks can continue operating under intense global oversight? Or will increasing pressure eventually shut them down? Let us know by leaving a comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more aviation content. See you next time. In addition to our daily YouTube videos, Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles and a podcast every week. Visit simpleflying.com.